So this problem says to graph the following equation, identifying intercepts, slope, domain, and range. So we have the equation y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. And by the way, don't forget that if you have a question that you would like to see a step-by-step solution like this one on, feel free to leave that down in the comments, or I also have my email address and other contact information down in the description below that you can contact me for either a video like this one, or if you wanted to get private tutoring. I also do online private tutoring for math, chemistry, and physics. Okay, so if we're wanting to graph this equation, we can use the rule that if we have a form of y is equal to mx plus b, that the m represents the slope. The m is the slope of the line, and the b is the y-intercept. So immediately, when we identify our coefficient of our x is going to be our slope, so that means that the slope is our negative 2. That gives us one of our answers. The slope is negative 2. And our 5 is our b, which is our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is equal to 5. So when I'm graphing an equation like this, I like to start with my y-intercept. So we'll find 5 on the y-intercept, will be right here. And then using our slope, so there's different ways to do this type of a problem, but one way is to start by graphing the y-intercept, and then using our slope as a fraction. We can write our slope as a fraction as negative 2 over 1, because you can write any whole number as over 1 to write it into a fraction. And using the idea that the slope is the change in the y over the change in the x, also known as rise over run, we can start at our point that we know, and because the change in y is negative 2, that means we need to go down by 2. A positive would be up, negative is down. And then on the bottom we have a positive 1, so we go right by 1 for our change in x. And that would give us another point on our graph, would be right here. Once we draw 2 points, we can draw a line through those points, but we can also continue and make a few more points just so that we don't, when we draw a line, we don't get too far off. So if we go down by 2, we can go right by 1, down by 2, right by 1, and continue. We can draw our line. Also, if you wanted to go a little bit to the left, we can use the idea that if we put the negative on the bottom, that 2 over negative 1 means the same thing as negative 2 over positive 1. So we'll go, because the 2 is now positive, we can go up 2, and then the negative 1 is a negative moving to in the x direction, so that would be left by 1. So that continues making another point that would be on the line. So if we draw this with, if we make a line out of it, it'll look something like this. And we know that it's going to continue in both directions. So we'll add an arrow. Okay, and that would be the graph of our equation. This would be a linear equation when it's in the form of y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we have our graph, we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. Another thing that we need is our x-intercept. We can find our x-intercept by plugging in 0 in for y and solving for x. So that would be 0 is equal to negative 2x plus 5. We can move the negative 2x term to the other side by adding 2x on both sides. which gives us 2x is equal to positive 5. And then divide both sides by 2 to get x is equal to 5 over 2, which would be 2.5 if we wanted to write that in a decimal. So that gives us our x-intercept. Let's write that over here as our x-intercept. Our x-intercept would be equal to 5 over 2. Or if we wanted to write these in a coordinate, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So that would be the coordinate of 0, 5. And the x-intercept is where y is 0. So that would be x is 5 over 2 when y is 0. So that's just another notation of writing those. Okay, so now we have our intercepts, we have our slope. The only things we have left to do is the domain and range. So these arrows indicate that because it's a slanted line, anytime you have a slanted line, you're going to have your domain could be all real numbers. So we would have the domain is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity, if we're writing that in our interval notation. And our range, because our arrows go up forever and down forever, our range is also negative infinity to positive infinity. Because domain is only restricted by if you have a value of x that makes the function not real. And since we don't have any x's in the denominator, we don't have any square roots or any other even roots or any other types of functions that could make restrictions on domains, we would have all real numbers for our domain, or from negative infinity to positive infinity. And also for our range, generally for any type of linear equation, unless it's just a horizontal line, so it never goes up or down, we're going to have all real numbers also for our range, or negative infinity to positive infinity. Alrighty, well that was the walkthrough of this problem, so thanks for sticking around with me to the end. And again, don't forget that if you have a problem that you would like to see a step-by-step solution of, feel free to leave that problem either down in the comments, or if it's a picture and it's hard to send in the comments, then you can also send that to my other contact information, either my email or my Facebook page, or however else you want to contact me, down in the description below. Or if you would like to have tutoring on some kind of math topic, I tutor from algebra to calculus, and feel free to contact me if you're interested in some tutoring. Well, thanks for watching and happy studies.